delighted that the Scotland under-17 head coach, Brian McLaughlin, has joined us. Brian, with a wealth of experience in football, starting off his career at Celtic and right through to been working with the SFA for the past decade. Beside him is our very own Si Ferry, still playing of course at Peterhead and coaching the young Celtic kids at under 9 and under 10 level. On my right hand side here, no introduction required for John Hartson, former Celtic, Arsenal and Wales international striker, and also coaching at high-flying Livingston at the moment. And on my far right, delighted to say that Kevin Thomson is with us, the former Hibs, Scotland and Rangers midfielder, who's also got his own coaching school with the kids and also helps out back at Ibrox coaching the youngsters. We're going to discuss a number of things, but first of all, we'll just kick off with your earliest memories of playing football, what it was like back in your day, Brian, getting up in the morning, finding a ball, finding some pals, finding a pitch and just get out and playing football.
Yeah, I was quite lucky because I had an older brother. So again, when I was young, as soon as I probably started walking, I could always see him. He was 4 or 5 years older than me, so he was always playing. My dad was a grassroots coach, so there was always football in the house. And then again, right at the back of my door, we had a five-a-side pitch. So my earliest memory really is just seeing him playing and then just wanting to get bigger, which clearly never happened. So I could finally go and get on the five-a-side pitch with him and play with older ones. It was always the older ones, and it was always like street v street. Probably back then it was Celtic v Rangers. And I was just dying to get a wee shot of that, and finally he started getting picked for that five-a-side game. That was me. I was away, probably 4, 5, 6-year-old, just playing all the time in this five-a-side pitch. It was great.
Similar for yourself, Kevin?
Similar, Mark. We brought up in Peebles, wee quiet town, and we stayed on the back of a golf course. So me and my mates, we used to cause havoc on the golf course for the golfers, and always had a ball at my feet, always had one under my arm. Even if my mates got into the golf, I would always have a ball under my arm, and I think that's possibly missing at the moment, that mum and dad kick you out the front door, you go and play a bit of football, whereas nowadays dad has to go out and play football with them. It always has to be with an adult, it always has to be with someone that's supervising, whereas I think it's refreshing to see kids playing in the street.
And for you, John, of course, growing up in Swansea?
Yeah, very similar to the boys really. My dad says I could kick a ball before I could walk, you know. how we came up with that thing, I don't know, but no, it was always a case of I brought up on a council estate like many of the boys, and my dad would always encourage me to practice. He'd say to me, look, kick it up against that wall, because the one thing you guaranteed is it'll just come straight back to you, you know, so you could work on your touch. I worked on things as I got a little bit older, my heading and things like that, because a lot of kids now, they don't like heading the ball. Brian, as you probably know, working with kids and Simon, and so it was just a case of I was obsessed with the game. I was absolutely obsessed with football. And to come from Wales as well, Wales' #1 sport is rugby, and my school didn't have a football team, and it was all rugby. So I just played for my local team, and then you know you stand out in the crowd, and then you know luckily for me there was a scout on the sideline, and he was a Luton Town scout, and when I got to 13, 14. I started to be invited up to Luton during the school holidays, and the natural progression then continued from there.
And for yourself, Simon, a Dundee boy?
We just used to kick about the streets as well, like the boy said. I had an older brother who was hopeless, so I always looked decent compared to him. Older mates, my best pal was Bobby Glennie's son, who played with Dundee, stayed on our street. Chris Glennie was a great player, so I was always playing with them older boys, and if you'd win, they'd beat them with leather, you know what I mean? So I used to love playing, and then after it I'd go home and greeting to my mum because they'd battered us, but just playing football at the time in the street, and I loved it. And same again, playing boys club, get picked up for Celtic, and it goes from there.
You know, Brian mentioned earlier in his stuff there about, you know, wanting to be picked, you know, wanting to be recognised by your peers and try to work out. Was it the same, Kevin, for you, and doing that, did it help toughen you up and give you that kind of mentality to prepare for what was coming?
I think so. The street that I stayed on, it was kind of like a dead-end cul-de-sac, and all the boys were older than me. And it did go for the spell where when you used to play and it was kind of World Cuppy, whatever the boys call it nowadays, and I would always be the one that got through in goals because I was the weakest and the smallest. And it was one of these situations where the strongest had to survive and you had to fight for your corner, and eventually it went through always getting thrown in goals to everybody wanting to be in your team. And like what Si says, Brian, it is a cycle that you see, that the ones that potentially play with older, stronger boys and the fit to survive. I think it's a good make-up to have as a young player.
I take it for you, Brian, as well. You'd have had to have survived, if you were a wee bit smaller than the rest. So you've got to be tricky. You've got to learn, hone your skills.
I think so. It's bizarre because back then you don't realise it. You don't realise. You just think you're trying a game of football with your mates, and ultimately that is what you're trying to do. But you're right. I was never going to be the biggest. I think I got to 5'4" with my studs on.
High heels, huh?
Aye, it was high heels. So I think it was always a normal for me. So even when they got to a stage where you're trying to break into a first team and you're giving away 3 stone in weight against first team players, 4 stone in weight,
Don't
whatever.
worry, Brian, I used to give that away every week.
But for me, it was just the normal. So you go and play against a team and you're playing against somebody 6'3", 6'4". It was genuinely the normal for me because that's how I was brought up.
I take it you battered a few times.
Absolutely. Actually, what Simon said was spot on. They got really, really competitive. You're trying to win. The pitches, when I say a 5-a-side pitch, there was potholes all over it. And you get kicked dead. People want to win, especially the bounce games that we played in, which they say it was really competitive. It was a laugh. But generally, it then became Celtic v Rangers. So no matter what game that is, it always becomes competitive. And whether you're the youngest or the smallest, they kick you, which was great. Like I say, that was my normal.
John mentioned Simon, about the scouts coming to see him play in Swans. It was a Luton Town scouts. When did you guys become aware of the scouts watching you in the sidelines?
There was an old Irish guy that used to scout for Celtic and Dundee. Sean Smith, his name was, and he had Michael Gardine, who's at Ross County now, Ross Wallace, Mark Fotheringham, and just used to see him standing at the side of the pitch. Came over to my dad and asked if I fancied coming up. My dad never had a clue about football. Says, do you want to go? And I was like, why no, eh? So I went up and training with the guys, training with older guys. We never went through to Glasgow, we only trained in Dundee. And as John will know, wee Wallace was tough as I was 9, he was 13, 14, he used to boot me all over the place, man, all the time. But then that'll help you when you go and play against other people. Playing against 13, 14-year-old Mark Fotheringham was the same. And it was a great upbringing. And it was only meant to be 2 nights a week, but we loved football so much, we used to say to the old guy who was 81 or something, can we come out every night? We ended up doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, go through to Glasgow at the weekend. And it was brilliant, it just took over your life, and because of the guys you end up loving football and desperate to play all the time.
Was it the same for yourself, Kevin, with the scouts starting to take notice?
It was, just touching on a point that John mentioned earlier, Mark, fascination of being a footy player. I think it's missing in young players nowadays. I was a wee bit the same when I was younger. No matter what level I wanted to play at, I loved playing footy. And I think kids now, society the way it is, and I know they've got different opportunities, but I think there's too many things that they would rather do than go and practice playing footy. And I genuinely think it holds a lot back. From my younger time, growing up, obviously never had the pro academies, never had things like that. So when I went from being a boys club player, same again, I probably outgrew it a wee bit. And the biggest thing for me, same again, it's quite a similar point to Simon in the respect that I went for P-balls and I had it all my own way, playing against players that were much weaker than me, to then going and playing at Hutchie Vale. And towny boys were that wee bit wiry, wee bit wide. You had to go into a changing room that it made you feel a wee bit uncomfortable, sitting in a corner, not really knowing where you were, and then training with boys that could take the ball off you. Whereas I went through a wee spell at Peebles Thistle where nobody could get the ball off me, playing against bigger, stronger boys that knew what time of day it was, and I think it helped me no end when I was a young player. Potentially moving with scouts, etc. It was a case of like playing like a challenge match, as they called it back in my day, where you maybe select boys for different boys clubs and they'd maybe play against a team through the west or whatever. But these games were like few and far between, so it was more boys club football for me, 2 nights a week, But every day I was finished school, I was out in the garden, I was out in the golf course practicing all the time. And I said to my boy that now he's only 8 and he doesn't want to practice on his own. He doesn't want to do it. And it doesn't matter to me whether he wants to be a footy player or he doesn't, but I'm saying to him, the harder you work, the more you do, the better you'll be. And he wants to play the PlayStation. He wants to do these things, and if he wants to play the PlayStation, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. But if he wants to be better at footy, I know that he has to practice it.
Just on 2 things that you mentioned, Kevin, in terms of the boys growing up not wanting to do it all the time. Just on heroes, who were your idols? Who did you grow on? Because at all our kids nowadays is all Messi and Ronaldo. Do they actually have Scottish heroes?
Possibly no. To be fair, when I was younger, it's funny because when I was obviously grew up a Hibs fan, Darren Jackson was a player I really liked. But then
don't say that.
I know. My idols as much was Man United, so it's the same. Do you know what I mean? I like Scottish players, even like boys like when I used to go and watch Hibs when I was younger with my dad, boys like Kevin Harper and that were breaking through. And And it's the same now, like my kids the same, they want to see the person that puts the ball in the back of the net. They didn't want to see the person that does the graft at the back, or, you know what it's like, it's not fashionable for your kid to want to like a right back. It's fashionable for them to want to like someone that puts the ball in the back of the net.
Tell me, John, surely you had somebody more glamorous than Adam Jackson.
Well, I grew up obviously supporting Liverpool, mainly because of Ian Rush. You know, Welsh, and Ian Rush was a record Wales goal scorer, Liverpool, fantastic striker, him and Dalglish's partnership, of course. And then I ended up actually playing with my idol, which not many players can actually. Played with Rush up front for Wales. But going back to Kevin's original point there about players not quite taking it, I wouldn't say seriously enough, but not giving everything that you've got every day, every training session. My father said to me, when he saw me strike the ball at 3, 4, 5 years of age, and my determination, and he always felt there was nothing going to hold me back. And I think if you've got that attitude, if you've got that in the pit of your stomach, in terms of there's nothing going to stop me, I'm going to give it everything I've got to get to where I want to go. Now listen, you can have injuries. There's every chance that you might get released. But I think if you've got that attitude to start off with, a player, if they've got that determination, that never say die attitude, because I live in a little, I'm from a little council estate in Swansea. It's like Beirut now, but when I was growing up, it was quite a nice place to be. And there's a couple of little pubs there, and I often pop in, to see the lads and boys I grew up with when I was a kid. And somebody will say to me after a couple of beers, he'll say, "Oh, see him over there, John. He was better than you at 12." And I'll go, do you know what? He may well have been. The difference was, at 12, 13 years of age, I was training 4 or 5 nights a week, putting everything that I had into the training. He was sipping cans of Stella, smoking fags, sitting on the corner of the local newsagent.
Was it me in the pub, John?
Yeah. There you go. He's still doing the same now. So it's having that little, that little bit of an attitude. And I always think as well, the confident ones, you work with kids, the confident ones who know they're good. They know they're good. They don't have to be told they're good. They go out and they shine, they stand out. They've got the touch, they've got the movement. You can tell the way they receive the ball on the back foot. They see pictures before it even comes to them. They know where the ball's going to go. They are generally the ones with that super confidence. Now, not everybody's got confidence. That it's difficult sometimes, but they are the ones. They're the ones who feel that they're good enough, and they stand out. They stand out a mile to me when I'm watching kids football.
John mentioned there, that determination
to
succeed.
I was going to mention that.
Both you guys working with kids, do the modern day kids have enough fire in the belly?
I think some do and some don't. Like it was back in my day as well. Like John just mentioned it there. John was practicing and his mate was drinking cans. So it was similar back then. I think now it's, for me in terms of youth football now, and I know we're going to talk about this later on, it's very much coach driven. There's so many adults involved. Back here when we all started, it was very much on our own, out ourselves, on our own at the back playing. And I think we've got to try and bring some of that back. I've always said this to all the players I've worked with, and I'll probably get myself sacked now. No coach will make you a player. There is no football coach in the world that's going to make you a football player. Players make players. If you want to become better, you can. If a player wants to become better at heading, you can. If you want to become better at dribbling, you can. Just go and do it. You don't need a coach. Once you've got that mindset, the young player, when he's got that mindset, that's when the coach comes alive. And it's only at that time that the coach can then come and say, right, I've got somebody who's really hungry, somebody who's really got this desire, and that's then when we earn our money, because that's when you make them.
So what is then, for the four of you then, Brian's saying there that, a coach can't make... What is, first of all, you guys are all coaches, what would be the first ingredient you would look for? And whether it's a 10-year-old kid or an 18-year-old young professional?
It'd be enthusiasm for me.
Hard work for me every day.
Hard work.
I think technical ability put together with hard work, because you can have an attitude, you can have a great attitude, you can have a great appetite for the game, you can work your socks off, but technically if you haven't quite got it, if you can't strike the ball properly and you can't see things, and you don't know in terms of how the ball comes in, so you can't make a pass, nobody can actually give you that either. You've got to have you've got to have a little bit of talent. So for me, you put the both together, and you've got a great chance around the player then.
So hard work, enthusiasm.
Love for me, I know that's very romantic, but I'm a big
football.
dreamer. I think you've got to love football. I think as soon as you love football, all of a sudden the hard work's no hard anymore. It's just something that you do.
Chris certainly hated football, but he was a sub player.
There's always one exception. Brian McLaughlin said the exact same. I hated warm-ups and I hated training, but he was a top player. There's always exceptions. But if you love the game, hard work's easy.
See, when I was younger though, when I was in at Celtic as a 12-year-old, one thing that was never ever questioned was your work rate. And see, now it seems to me when I'm coaching kids, you need to stop a session every 5-10 minutes, say, come on, work. Whereas, of course we made mistakes and coaches would help you, but your work rate was never in question. We used to sprint into training. I used to run to training. I was that excited to get there. I'd get there early. Now I see the kids walking down to Barrafield and you think they were going to school, some of them. Honestly, it's like it's a chore to come to training. And you come down to a warm-up, we'd be on the pitch, we'd be balls out straight away, we'd be playing with each other. The coach had to tell you to stop playing, whereas now they'll stand and talk to each other for 5 and 10 minutes. Where if we were younger, we'd grab a ball and we'd be playing straight away.
I couldn't coach kids. I wouldn't have the patience. Because
what age level, John, you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about 10, 11, 12, because I think I'm better off with adults, because I can dish a rollicking out. I can tell him what I exactly think and he'll take it, he'll accept it. Not being funny, and I'm trying to be as honest as I can. With children, I've just not got the patience. If I see them standing around with their hands in their pockets, hey you, get your hands out your pockets. If you don't want to be here, go home. You know, because some of them, they just don't know. You know, and I'm like, I want them to show a better attitude. I want them to run around a little bit. You know, I'm talking about 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And I just think if you put them if you give them tools early on, then I think it's, you know, they'll continue with them. But initially, I can't stand taking a session and there's players that don't want to be there, and they're walking around. I can't deal with that. If they're adults, I can say to them, hey, what's going on? Do you not want to be here, or what are we here? Do you not want to be a player? Because if you don't want to be a player, then just go home. Because there's another 10 players here that really want to, and they want to work hard and get better. Difficult to get that across to kids.
Okay, you've got your own coaching academy for kids. Simon, you're involved with kids. Brian as well, slightly older. So how do you get that balance where you're getting kids where maybe the mums and dads are using it as a babysitting service, and the ones that actually want to be there in terms of getting a pathway into the professional game?
See what John's just said there. At my academy, I'd tell them the same. Whether they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If kids come to my academy, regardless of their ability, it's equal opportunity at my academy. So right through to my 5 to 8-year-old class is coming along and getting early touches and trying to be the best you can be. If you didn't want to come and get better, then you should go somewhere else. So what John's saying, I think, is missing.
Definitely.
I think what the tone that he's just said that there, in my opinion, is good enough and right enough to be able to tell a 10-year-old that if he doesn't want to come and work and get better, then maybe being in a pro academy or maybe being an elite player maybe isn't for them. And then I think that filters right through to grassroots. I go to a lot of grassroots clubs, and the amount of times I need to tell the person that runs the club that it's so unfortunate that wee Bobby and wee Harry and wee Jimmy ruined it for the rest because they were mucking around and their attitudes were poor. And sadly, when you only have these kids for an hour and trying to make a difference, it's they 3 that stumble your session. And it can be the same right through at pro academies and right through at the top.
And you want them to tune in, Kev, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking and you're making a point, you want them to tune in. I'm not wasting my time, mate. I'm telling you from experience. I'm telling you to try and make you better. Tune in. Don't be looking over there. Look at me when I'm talking, because I'm trying to make you better.
I think that's why the adult world that we're now in youth football is really, really important for coaches for me. John's talking about coaches there, and he couldn't work at the younger age group. He could if he really wanted to. But I think we need to realise coaching is not from 8-year-old to 28-year-old. There is areas that people should be specialising in. It may be working with young kids, it may be working with youth players, it may be working with adults. We've got to try and figure out who the specialists we've got for these areas. And I think that one of the reasons that makes you special in that area is how you communicate with the young person. Yeah. It's how you talk to them. So rather than maybe telling somebody at times you need to work harder, it's trying to get him to feel that he's letting himself down by not working hard. It's almost how you talk to them.
So how would you phrase that then?
It depends age, it depends the boy. It really, again, for me, the biggest thing for coaching now is the connection between coach and player. It's the most important thing. As soon as that young kid buys into you, the coach, and believes you, the coach, you can tell him in.
And is that another way of just saying it's about man management?
It's all man. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You've got to make it personal for the coach, for the player. Sorry, not the team. Personal for the player. The team will come second, and that's why now adults and coaching isn't just what you know. It's that how you actually get personal with that young player and deliver what you know to him, because ultimately the young player doesn't know it. So it's how you communicate is the key, and this is why we need specialist coaches at certain age groups. Really, really key for me.
Before we move on to coaching academies and different setups that we have in the modern game, just interesting enough, I've been round the table now for 20 odd minutes, and I think PlayStation has been mentioned 4 or 5 times, and Kevin brought it up. So in the past 20 years, we've probably noticed a big difference in terms of kids with the PlayStations and taking up their time. Can you see that only getting worse, or is there a way that we can arrest that and get them back into football?
I think we can get them back in. I think for me, we know it's there. You know, see, when we were getting younger, we were obviously slightly older than Kevin and Simon, but even when we played back then, there would have been something else that you could have done.
What was it, Atari?
It probably was Atari. But Atari was magnificent back then.
Pac-Man, that was it.
Pac-Man. That was
Now you're
good as well.
talking.
But we obviously left that.
Frogger.
No.
Frogger.
Space Invaders.
Remember the Space Invaders? But the Xbox is there. You know, the PlayStations are there. Ultimately, we've got to make our training sessions so good that they want to leave their Xbox to come, and that's the challenge now for every adult coach out there. Simon mentioned earlier on, but sometimes there's so much standing around, coaches are talking. Well, if coaches are wanting to come and meet up and talk to each other, then I wouldn't leave my house, I'd play the Xbox. I want to get to this environment where as soon as you turn up, the coaches are on you straight away, and that doesn't mean shouting at you, it means the place, the environment is magnificent, and I want to be there all the time. I don't want to be in the house, I want to be here. That's the key.
I want the kids to be kids, Mark.
Yeah.
I tell mum and dad take them in McDonald's. I take my kids to McDonald's all the time. If they want a bar of chocolate, they can have a bar of chocolate. But I think at elite level, and any level, whether it's grassroots right through to elite, if you want to get better, these things have to be done second to your footy. I think if it's first and it's regular, then it's not giving yourself the best opportunity to be a good footy player. But if you want to sit on a Sunday when it's peeing down with rain and you'd rather have a game on the computer, then that's fine. Kids have to be kids. It's society that we live in. But I think when the PlayStations and the McDonald's and the sweeties and the bad living becomes the first thing rather than football being the first, I genuinely don't think you're giving yourself the best opportunity to be the best you can be. Yeah.
Do you think our kids, the generation of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 year old, you've got kids, John, are they in love with the game enough, or are there too many other distractions?
Well, I think they are. There are distractions, but I think it's a balance, isn't it? I don't think you're ever going to stop any child going on a PlayStation. You know, I've got 5 kids. They've got iPads. They've got all these apps on their computers. You know, they've got lots of different things they can play with. But it doesn't stop my boy looking forward to his training sessions. It doesn't stop him trying to improve. If he, you know, I think the biggest problem is that they're on them so long. I think you've got to try and limit how long they're on them for. But in terms of young kids, you know, I had an Atari. Nothing stopped me becoming a player. It's just a little bit of balance, I think. I think because somebody likes to go on their PlayStation, it doesn't mean to say that he's not focused on his football. So I think it's just as a parent, as a coach, you know, getting the balance, I think.
Do we have good enough facilities in this country for our young footballers?
I had this argument the other night. I don't think facilities matter. Like, John wouldn't have trained on a top of the art pitch, would you?
Barrowfield. Years.
I mean, we came through at Barrowfield where the facilities are no great, but like Brian says, the atmosphere it was there. Tommy created with the young kids, it was... I used to love going to training with Tommy Burns because he was so enthusiastic, couldn't help but love it. So facilities, we could not... I couldn't even have told you back then. If somebody says to me, what's Barrowfield like as a facility? As a kid, I wouldn't have said, oh, it's top of that, it's rubbish. I wouldn't have known. All I knew was that I loved going there because the training that he put on was brilliant, and I used to really enjoy going.
If you're saying they don't matter, but surely if you can give a kid a better facility, for example, 9 months of the year we've got bad weather, we've all been snowed in You know, a matter of 2 weeks ago, when the first week in March, surely if you've got better indoor facilities,
Oh,
that's got to give
indoor,
us a bit. No, so I'm just talking about in general. I know what you mean.
We had a big tent, didn't we?
I had a tent at Barrowford.
We had a big tent where there was blow heaters in the tent, warm heaters, where outside was full of snow, full of ice, but actually in that tent, it's a huge tent, it almost went
roasting.
the width of a playing field. And it would actually, a size tent that you get full-size goals in there. We had that up from November right through till February. And we loved going in the tent because it was generally five-a-sides, and that's all I loved is five-a-sides.
What about for your academy, Kevin? Is it easy to get facilities? Is it challenging getting facilities?
Well, they're expensive, Mark. That's probably the fundamental for me starting an academy is that sadly I have to try and get kids to buy into being on a bobbly grass pitch that's wet, and I got brought up in one of them. I was a first team player at Hibs when we used to have to sit in at Easter Road till 10:15 to wait for the gaffer to come and tell us where we were training, and not once did we ever get in the car and say, it's there, it's wet, it's windy. We just got in the car and drove to training, and Scotty used to have a wee Pinto at the time. It wasn't a flash by any means, yet we still used to drop our trousers down to our ankles, boots on the lap, so we didn't get his car dirty. So that tells you the type of pitch that we trained on. Yet kids nowadays, they get dirty. Facilities,
Scott still got that Pinto, no?
Probably, I think his missus crashed it. And that just showed that, like, in my opinion, like, all the boys used to sit around the changing room, big changing room at Easter Road, and all of a sudden, KB, Gaffer, whoever would come in and say, right, we're training at so-and-so Wardy, and then all of a sudden the changing room would just disperse in seconds, everybody jumping in their cars. Yet, when I was up at Dundee, Si will vouch for this, I had that feeling that people were saying, it's windy today, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that's what I'm trying to get away from my kids, and the attitude that it doesn't matter where you train, where you're playing, you should have a buzz to go and try and be a good footy player.
Well, in terms of when you get the national team together, Brian and other players, they're coming from the top clubs around the UK, so do you feel that you've got to give them the very best because that's what they've been used to day to day?
We've got to give them the very best because that's what they deserve. They've been picked to play for their country under 17 level. The teams that we're also playing against, again, are coming from, we just beat Spain the other week there, they're coming from Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, so these players have got these facilities. So we're always trying to find out ways of, at that age group, we're always trying to find out ways of, can we make their experience better? Again, it goes back to actually the environment that Simon talked about. One of the key things that we try and do on these trips is make sure we create something that they want to come back to. They really want to come back to, and by the way, sometimes that's just being a young player, or not even a young player, a young person. We have a day off during that week. At times, we let them relax. We're not on them all the time because they work really, really hard in the small sessions that we have. And then they relax in the times that we're not training. And ultimately, the experience that we're trying to create, it's relaxed, but it's well thought out. We know exactly what we're doing when we meet up. We know exactly what we're doing every single day. If things go wrong, which can happen, then we've always got a plan B to make sure that when the clubs allow us to take their players away for a week, they're going to be looked after, and ultimately the players should pick something up on the trip, either from myself, from my staff, or more often than not, it'll be the players they're playing against. But let's say one of the key things we always try and do is the experience. They've got to love being with Scotland. They've got to go away and look for that squad letter getting announced and saying, yeah, I'm in it again. And at this moment in time, we seem to be creating that with this group. And like I said, they're all dying to get me up again on Sunday, which is great. And John will have that with Wales.
The thing is as well, Brian, what it does is my son played for Wales under 15 schoolboys last week, and he's at Swansea. He's been there since he was 9. He loves going with Wales, not for the fact that it's Wales. Yes, he's proud to represent his country, but it takes him away from his regular day-to-day environment. It's a different group of lads. It's a different group of coaches. It gets him away from every day, the routine of being in that Swansea City Academy, 4 till 6, 4 or 5 days a week, games on a Sunday, training Saturday morning. He's with Wales. He's looking to impress different coaches, lads from the north, lads from Liverpool, Man United, Tottenham, whatever they come from, all them lads. And he loves that because he's in a different environment, and he's trying to impress. He loves going away with his country, and that's the part where you say, and they leave their clubs, and it's just different sessions, different voice.
It's different sessions. Yeah. They play against different players. I think that's the key. You go and play. We've got Greece next week. We go and play Greece. The boys don't know what Greece are going to be like. Now, I've watched about 10 videos of them. They're very, very good. They're very, very organised, and they're really, really physical. the boys don't know this yet, but they will after the first minute. But that whole getting into a different change rooms. I mean, Kevin mentioned that at the start. You go into a change room, even at 17, you might not know some of the boys that well, and you're at your comfort zone. It's important then, like when we're there, we bring them together, and it's just the whole experience of being away for a week as well is really, really good. But just like I said, what we're trying to do is make sure that we look after them as best we can. Make sure we try and find out, are we missing something? If we are, let's find what it is, let's bring it into the squads, and let's keep trying to do whatever we can to edge these boys along, because ultimately my goal is to give them back to their clubs a better player. That's my job.
At the SFA, over the past 7 or 8 years since the McLeish report, they've invested millions and millions of pounds, in facilities.
Yeah.
There's Ravenscraig, there's across the road from Hampden. How good has it been to have someone such as young Cochrane come through at Hartson? Has he been developed into a kind of a poster boy to show that it can be done?
Again, he almost has become a poster boy, which I don't like because he's only 16. But in terms of the last few years, there has been a lot of money spent. There's been money spent in facilities. There's been a lot of money spent in grassroots as well. Again, we invest a lot of money into youth academies in Scotland, which again most foreign countries don't do. I think there's only 3 in Europe now that's doing it, but we're still one of them. Because I think we realise that if we want to try and get back to the best in Europe, and let's face it, we want to become one of the best in Europe, that's the goal, then we're all going to have to come together, work together and use the money that we've got. And young Harry's a perfect example of, he was at Rangers as a young boy. Rangers did really, really well, and Rangers probably played a massive decision in where he is just now, because at that point, I think he left Rangers about age 13. But Rangers had about 4 or 5 top midfield players at the time, at that age group. I'm talking 4 or 5, young Billy Gilmore was another one. And if Harry would probably have stayed at Rangers at that point, then do you know what? He probably game time would have been restricted, but so would Billy's game time have been restricted. And Rangers made a big decision actually and let him go. He then went to Hearts, and they've just done magnificent with him, and particularly Craig Levein, because ultimately it's the manager that's got to play a 16-year-old in the first team.
And the difference as well, he's gone to Hearts where he's playing, and Billy Gilmore's gone down to Chelsea, and he's probably not getting a sniff.
Billy at the moment is doing great for the under-18s.
Yeah, but he's not in the first team.
He's not like
Chelsea got one of 45 players out on loan, haven't they?
Yeah, Billy's made that. It's his career path,
absolutely,
his choice to go that way. There's no set way of making him becoming a footballer. We've all got different ones.
But I do think if you go to a club where you got more of an opportunity to get into the first team, like I could have gone to several clubs.
Yeah.
I chose Luton because at 17 I was in the first team. And I played 52 times till I was 19, and then I went on from there, gaining that playing with men in a competitive league where points matter in front of a crowd. That I think brings a player on. Absolutely brings a player on, makes you stronger mentally. You get in early, so at 19 when you go again, you know exactly what's required. When you go through the under 18s, 19s, you're not getting opportunities in the first team. I think that's a huge mistake, because when I was coming through, it was a youth team. If you're good enough, you get in the reserves. If you're good enough, you get into the first team. Now there's some really good players out there not playing for their first teams because they're in the under 23s. I racked up 150 games for Arsenal and West Ham by the time I was 23. Masunda has just come to Celtic.
Yeah.
4 games for Chelsea. How old is he? 21. So you're not getting that experience, and I believe the under 19s, 21s, 23s, I think it's creating jobs for coaches. I think it's creating issues in terms of players not getting in the first team soon enough, because I think there's situations where you're good enough but you're not getting an opportunity.
Do you agree with that, Kevin?
I think when I was younger, similar to John, I'd obviously been at Hibs. We had reserve footy, so you play youth team on a Saturday morning and then you would play on a Monday night, and the Monday night was sink or swim. It was against men. It was times where you genuinely could turn up to the changing room and the changing room be full of 7 or 8 first team players barking at you in the warm up, barking at you on the pitch if you never gave them a ball. Don't get me wrong, it never had the same environment and playing in front of a crowd, and the points, I think the points did matter at the time in the respect to the actual reserve league, but it never mattered the same as it does on a Saturday, if you know what I mean. But I think the biggest thing for me that I got lucky off when I was younger was having Donald Park The biggest thing I probably learnt off of Donald, without sounding disrespectful to him, probably wasn't on the pitch. It was off the pitch. Respect, hard work. When I got my opportunity, I knew to grasp it. And older players being hard on us definitely helped me as a young player.
Such as who was particularly,
Well, when I first got into the Hibs, we had like a massive squad because obviously it was the Sosie era. So we had like lots of big hitters. Had boys like Freddie Arpignon, grumpy French bugger he was. You know what I mean, barking at you when you didn't give him the ball. And then even like when we used to go and train with the first team boy, you had boys like Grant Brebner's and that, really hard, like great with the young boys, but hard on them as well, in the respect to never pulling the wool over your eyes to tell you that you could just come and saunter about and think that you were a good player. And it's funny because I watched Rio Ferdinand talk about West Ham, and he used to say that Julian Dix, when he used to send them over, a couple of youth team players, and this is, I know that's not, we weren't at West Ham and I'm certainly not Rio Ferdinand, but when we were at Hibs and we used to get shouted over to that Sosie, John O'Neill's, like proper hardened pros, and Julian Dix would obviously, when Rio's and that, used to get, send them back, rubbish, send them back, and you either went over there and stuck your chest out and showed these guys that you were good enough to play, same as the reserve footy, or you sunk. And when me and Scotties and that used to get shouted over, we used to jog over and have boys like Mix with Pat Aline and saying, send them back, rubbish. And I'll show you. You know what I mean? Straight over there to show him how good a player I was. And in theory, that helped me big time when I was a young boy. And I didn't see that much.
They were the exact same. See, going up there as a young boy, I used to be terrified. Lenny. See, if I got put on Lenny's team, I would be shitting myself. But like you see reserve football, I loved it. I remember being 16. Like you say, off the park, more coaches, Kenny McDowell, we played a reserve game. Paul Lambert played in the reserves. I was on the bench. And I remember Lambo never warmed up. He sat with Kenny and had a coffee before the game. Walked out, and before the game, Kenny McDowell said to me, watch Paul Lambert play here. I sat and watched Paul Lambert for the full 90 minutes. Unbelievable. A couple of years later, playing in the reserves, Alan Thomson had a falling out with Gordon Strachan, so he came down and trained with us. Now, see, for Alan Thomson coming down to train with us, could have tossed it off. See, every day, he worked the hardest out of every single player in that team. I remember I was playing centre mid in a reserve game, and he came up to us before it. As a joke, he went, you'll learn more in this 90 minutes than you have your whole career. And by the way, he was spot on.
What did you learn?
Not to give the ball away, to demand the ball, half turn, play forward all the time. And see, if I gave the ball away, he would slaughter us. And see, now when I give the ball away for Peterhead in a League 2 game on a Saturday, I get frustrated with myself for 2 or 3 days after it. And that's because of the upbringing that they gave me. See, if you gave the ball away in Lenny's team, 2 days later he would still be going on about it. What were you thinking?
How was he as a young player? Was he any good?
That's why they kept shouting.
He was very good. There was a crowd, there was a group of them. There was like Ross Wallace, there was Steve McManus, there was Piero, there was Jamie Smith, went to Aberdeen. There was 6 or 7 of them, but they knew when they came to training, they had to be at it. Because the first team was bang, 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 you had Petrov, Lambert, Lenny, just really good footballers in general, but good pros as well. And one of the reasons why they did get onto them, because they wanted them to do well. Yeah. They're not doing it because they want to make a name for themselves, or they just want to cause an argument, or they believed in them. They saw that they had ability. And I'm sure if you speak to Big Mick McManus now, having watched Bobo and being in the same side as him and players like this, and Jos Valharan and Mialbi, from him coming and training as a young boy, he then took over that mantle and he became a fantastic centre-half for Celtic for several seasons.
Did you have the same at Celtic in the early to mid-90s as what Kevin's talking about?
Absolutely, again, because of Barrowfield back then, we only had the one grass pitch and the one ash pitch, if you remember, way back then. So we would train right next to the first team all the time, and you were dying to train really, really well Monday to Thursday because you always knew you might get a wee chance to train with the first team on the Friday. Not in the squad, but you would go up there and train with the first team, and it was the exact same. You'd go in, always on a Friday was a small-sided game, it was young v old. The young would always beat the old, but it was really, really competitive. And I mean, Tommy was playing then. Tommy was actually on the pitch taking part in the session, and he didn't like to give the ball away if you're on Tommy's team because he was on you straight away. But the great thing back then for me was the standards that were created from the top down. The standards right across the whole place was magnificent. We just did everything right. You had to work really hard. You had to really, really care about the ball. But also when you went and trained with the first team at that moment, and I think this is key, this is looking back to the coach and the player connection for me. If you were up training with the first team and the first team players was really, really on you, really, really hard, that could put you in a shell. So when you come back from the first team, you may be like, oh, what am I doing? But then you would go and grab somebody like a Donald Park at that moment in time, and you would spend somebody this in the clubs, this coach you always go to. And back then it was Frank Connor with me. And you would sit there with wee Frank, and he would say just what you said there, John. Look, they're at you because they want you to get better. They see this, they see that, and because you trust that coach, you're away again. And then you want to get back up the following Friday and train again because you want to show them that you can play in the first team.
One thing as well that surprised me, that I'd heard, it was Jim Duffy told me recently about one thing that seems to be lost with the modern day player, kids coming through, and even first team players now at 25, 30 playing full time football, is the art of communication is gone in terms of on the pitch players, you know, helping each other, talking them through night. He says you don't get that now. He says everything's coming from the dugout, everything. Do you find that? I was really surprised at that, but do you think there's been a bit of communication lost in terms of the footballers coming through in the past decade or so?
I think it's just the generation that we're now in. Like I said, it's football now has become adult driven in youth academies because there's so many coaches. Back when we all started, there was no adults, so you had to communicate yourself. But maybe the adults are taking that away from the kids. If that's an issue at your club, then the coaches can change that. They can change that by saying nothing at the side.
I think it's a confidence thing as well, I think, with kids, because if you go and watch an under-14 session and you got two in the middle, or two with bibs on, two without, and you're playing the little keep ball using the outside, and no one's talking. It's like silent. No one's saying the word.
They want to text instructions.
No, but no one's saying the word.
Is that what it is?
No one's saying the word. And I'm like, hey, come on, call for the ball. Call, what's your name? You know, and all of a sudden, Robert or John or Stephen, give it to me. Come on, do you want it back? Yeah, have it back. Call for it. Talk. It's so too quiet. And then one will start talking, the other one will start shouting, and all of a sudden you've got them all talking again.
But that's you, the coach then, John.
It's the influence
you've created
then,
that
yes,
environment,
yes.
and you've created these young players to feel confident to talk to each other. Like I said, it's an adult world. Youth football became an adult world. The adults can change it. The coaches can change it if they want to.
And I think talking's a huge part of the game, especially for strikers.
Yes.
Because if the ball's coming across and you're both in, like a little shout like over or anything, mine, or you're not colliding. It's like anything, just that little bit of talking. I think is massive in the game. I really do.
What about the current academies that have them? If we move it on a wee stage to that, where kids are going at 15, 16, 17, 18, trying to make that step to become first team footballers. What do you think of the current academy setups that we have in Scotland, Kim?
Well, obviously I've only been exposed to it for a wee while, Mark. Obviously I've done a wee bit at Hearts. I'm sorry. I've done a wee bit at Hibs for 5 or 6
divide.
Maybe. For 5 months or so, and I was lucky enough to work with Lee Makel. He allowed me to help his team. And the biggest thing for me, and it's the same since I've obviously been in at Rangers for the last 5 or 6 weeks, is the intensity for me is the biggest thing. And we've just touched on a wee topic there, going and first team players barking at you because the intensity, they want you to do things quicker, sharper, give the ball away, care about it, etc. I think that's one thing that's lacking a wee bit right across footy, grassroots, right through to pro academies, is that the time that we have these kids on the pitch, I genuinely believe the time could be cut back by hours on hours, and as long as we trained at the right intensity, the right stuff, repetition of doing the right stuff, passing it, receiving it, moving it, looking after the own ball, do you know what I mean? Small-sided games, big-sided games, not just pigeonholing into one thing. I think that we could certainly make things better.
What improvement, John? You're involved at Livingston. You're telling us that your boy, young Johnny's involved at Swansea City. What do you like about the current setups, and what would you change if you could tweak one or two things for the young guys trying to become first team footballers?
I just think a little bit more work with the ball. I think there's too much information ploughed into them, the younger ones. I can remember something I was watching my boy. I've watched him all the way through since he was 9, and up until say an under 12 game, where they play 20 minutes, and they generally change the teams. They change the team, and I'm looking over and I'm thinking, 2 of the players are like that, looking like that away, under 12s. The coach has got like one of these boards, and all the players are there. It's freezing cold. They're standing around and they're trying to give them information. Now, I never took any notice of any tactics all my life. When the manager was talking, I knew what I had to do. I had to win my headers. I had to go to the ball. I had to keep the ball. I had to put myself about, get in the box and ultimately score goals. I knew my job. I knew my roles. I knew my responsibilities in the team. And I just think tactics, too much information, I think sometimes it just floods their brain. They don't need at 10, 11 years of age to be on like a tactics board and going around and say, nobody's really taking any notice. They don't know what the coach is talking about. That's only my opinion, because they go back onto the field. I understand that pitch sort of way, you need to appreciate where you are on the pitch and things like this, but I think there's far too much talking.
We were, like you say, small-sided games, 3v3s, and what he wanted was intensity. Make decisions for yourself. He wouldn't stand and commentate through the training with you. Whereas I go to our games now, and the ball's coming to a player and the coach is shouting pass. What else is he going to do it? I remember once the winger was running at a full-back and the coach is shouting tackle. Tackle! Do you know what I mean? It's like they want to play the game for the kids.
So are we stopping, by over-coaching, are we stopping kids from allowing them to kind of think for themselves and be reactive?
Definitely. The best players in the world. I remember played against Lallana at Southampton, and it blew my mind because he was the one guy on the pitch that he would take the ball anywhere. Anywhere on the pitch. He was at full-back, he would take it with a man up his arse, he wouldn't bother. And you could see him thinking about the ball before the ball came to him, and he'd make his own decisions anywhere on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't it? You could tell he hadn't been coached.
I think the managers recognise, like Newborn would have chicks are top class players. They will just say he wouldn't have a specific position. Just go and affect the game. Go and pick it up and go and damage the opposition. If you want to play on the left, if you want to stand and not move for 10 minutes, you haven't always got to move. Good centre forwards, Teddy Sheringham, Kevin Phillips, these type of players, they're not constantly on the move. Sometimes they stand still. It's good to stand still because the defender's all over the place. You stand still, ball drops to you when you're ready. That, you know, to say to a centre forward, stand still when the ball's wide, because everybody's all over the place. If you stand still and get into a bit of space, it'll come to you. You haven't always got to be on the run, and besides, if you're standing still, it's easier to strike the ball than if you're on the move. So it's just little sort of things like that. You just need to tell players, just little things that make a big difference, and that's what it works for me.
Are we over-coaching our players, Brian?
You can't generalise every academy, first of all. Like I said, the academies have improved without doubt. They've got a massive job because youth development, let me tell you now, youth development is the hardest thing in football. It's really, really difficult to develop a young player. It's easy to win games at youth level. I've always said this, it's much easier to win a game at youth level than to actually develop a football player. So it's really, really difficult. And also in Scotland now, you're competing against the 5 big leagues in the world. The amount of money that's now getting spent in youth academies in England and France and Spain to this world is millions per team. But we can still make ours better. And like I say, we've got some great guys, some great coaches in our academies that are doing a magnificent job. But just something that John said there earlier on, I do think we need to be realistic. You know, so for instance, if you've got a 12-year-old kid, don't expect him to be Lubo Moravcik at 12-year-old, because he's not. What you should be thinking about, what was Lubo like at 12-year-old? You know, don't try and have Messi dribbling at, because Messi wasn't really dribbling at 12. Think of what he was like at 12. Think what he was like at 10.
Do you think, Brian, do you think sometimes we take away their best asset in terms of if you've got a young player who loves taking players on? Yeah. And then you've got a coach who says, look, son, when you're taking players on, have a look inside, play it inside. I think encourage them to take players
John,
on.
It's interesting you see that. For me, when I was in performance, because I was in performance schools in Glasgow for 5 years, so I was training these academy players every single day, then they would go back to their clubs at night. And I had 10 habits or 10 rules that I used to have for every single player. These are the 10 rules that they'll have by the end of 4th year, they'll have them. And one of them was, you're allowed to be different. See if you're a dribbler, be a dribbler. See if you're a passer, be a passer. See if you want to go and tackle 5 people, go and tackle 5 people. Because if that's what you're good at, be really good at it. Rather than look at the stuff where he can't do this, he can't do that, that's fine. We'll get that. But you know what? He's different. And these players that are different is Lubo Moravcik. These players that are different is Kenny Dalglish. These players that are different are Henry Larsson. They're different. So you've got to let these players go. Give them different information. Sometimes that's nothing apart from go again. Or why did you try that? I tried it because of this. Good decision. Right. Go again. Go again. And this is why adults in youth development are really, really important, which is coaches.
In terms of, you're talking about, Dalglish is there that you mentioned, and not to bring it up to to adult football where we are nationally as a game at the top level. But the facts are we haven't been at a World Cup for 20 years. We've not been at a European Championships for 22 years. We've just appointed a new national manager. The campaign gets underway in a few months' time. You guys are all involved in the game at different levels. Can you give the viewers out there some hope and optimism, if you can put your tartan scarf on for a minute, John, that we might, that there's something good around the corner for us, Kevin?
You've got to believe, Mark. That's one thing I'd say to all the players, whether it's grassroots boys or the pro boys in the range. You've got to believe that you can be a good player. You've got to believe that you can get better. Self-belief, I think, in a footy player is a big thing. So us as a nation, we're all vouching on the same thing. We want to see the national team get better. Yeah, you work for independent clubs, so you want to see your club get better 100%. But if we're going to produce good Scottish players, players that have got X factor, players that can genuinely play at the top level, then we've got to believe that we can do it. The reason I took on the role, the reason I started the academy was that I thought I could make a difference. That's the only reason I'm doing it. If I never, I'd sit in a house and I'd enjoy watching footy every weekend.
I think what Scotland need to do, similar to what Wales have done, similar to what all the successful teams do, find a system, find the players that fit into that system, whether it's forward the back, whether it's 3 centre halves and wing backs, whether it's 2 centre forwards, whether it's a 1 centre forward, like Celtic play with the wide men. Whatever you want to do, find a system, find the right players who is best at playing that system in that particular position. And that's what you start off by doing. And that's how I believe you improve. It's continuity. If you win, don't change a team. Why change things all the time? People have a habit. When I played for Celtic, we had 4 strikers. Myself, Henrik, Chris, and Sean Maloney. We played Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday. Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. Wednesday, Saturday. We didn't come out of the team. Martin didn't change the team. Why would you? Henrik didn't want to rest after scoring a hat-trick. I didn't want to rest after scoring 2 goals. When you get to January and February, you're not tired. You're not doing a lot of training. You'd have a nice bath. You're doing warm-downs. You want to play. All this chopping and changing, you need 2 players for every position. Okay, you need a big squad. When you're in lots of competitions, in case you get 1 or 2 injuries, you may want to rest somebody if he's generally looking tired. But pick your best team and get them out there every opportunity you can. That's my moral about it, and I'm a big believer in that. Get your best team out there and play them every single week.
Simon?
I think there is encouragement. I think you see boy Tierney at Celtic's a top player. Robertson. There's good young players there. Cochrane, as you mentioned, at Hearts. Big boy McKenna at Aberdeen I like as well. So I think, and I've seen Brian's team beat Spain 2-1. We've obviously got a good setup there. So there is players there, definitely. Hopefully all these players can come through at the one time. Because I see quite a lot of teams like Ramsey and that at Wales all came through together, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And I think that would be great if Scotland could get a generation that does that.
Brian, you're involved at the national game, helping to produce our kids. What kind of shape have we got? How's the next decade look?
I think it's looking very good. Like I said, the academies have spent a lot of money. They've brought a lot of new people in. Kevin, for instance, going into Rangers is magnificent. All of a sudden, you've got an ex-player who's played at the very, very top and working with 13 and 14-year-olds, and that can only help. For me, moving forward now, the only way we will change it if we keep investing in youth football. We've got to get the right people in youth football. We've got to keep training them right every day, give them the proper information, and be very, very patient with them. Be very, very patient, and then ultimately, if we keep coming together as a group, and it's not just Scotland here, it's every club, every grassroots club, every Scottish club, and the Scottish FA. If we all keep coming together, use the money that we've got, we can change the future. We definitely can. And just going back to the 2001 squad, like I said, we've just played together. I think we've played something like 10 games in the last 12 months. We've played Italy, we've played England, we've played Croatia, we've played Poland, we've played Spain. We've had more possession of the ball in every single team we've played over the last year. Now, we haven't won every game. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden now we're having young players, and that's nothing to do with me. This is to do with the players that the academies are giving me. They're technically good, they're brave on the ball, and it's ultimately then when they come to me is we've just got to make them tactically slightly better or different and give them the confidence and believe in them and trust them that we can change the game, and we will.
Do you think that's what we need to? We're definitely technically better. That's what needs to change from previous years.
No, I don't think we need to be technically better. I think coaches need to trust the kids more. I think technically I don't see Spain better than us technically, but do you know what I do see? I see their players are braver on the ball. And I think as coaches trust their young players more, trust them more, let them make mistakes. But if they love the game, they work really, really hard, train with this intensity, then you will change them. You will change them. It goes back to trust them. We've got to trust our young players.